Oh,
All of the embarrassing things.
right on. Well, folks, we are live, and I see that there are all of 2 or 3 people on today on the stream. It is my hope that more people jump on. But if you are here already, do me the favor of making sure that you can hear me. Make sure that my mic is working and you can see me clearly. I've started some streams and realized that my mic was pushing a bunch of feedback, and so all anybody could hear was this roar. And I was so embarrassed that every time now I start a stream with, please make sure you can hear me, and all of the rest. Folks, as you jump on, and again, I will ask folks as they get on just to tell us where you are and all the rest. I see Sushi. Hey, thank you for confirming that we can hear. And Jap, thank you also for letting us know that you are here. If you are here already, please hit the thumbs up, the like button, and then let's tell YouTube that we're here, and just let folks know that we're here and what we're doing, and hopefully more people will get the notification and hop on. So I'm not going to wait for people to jump on. People say, oh, like, let's chit chat for 10 or 15 minutes. Basically, people can catch in the replay if they want to get that kind of stuff. But I just am pleased and happy to welcome Ace Chapman to the channel. It's his first time here, and this is our very first DEALMAKERS happy hour. And it's 2 o'clock here, so I am drinking just cranberry juice instead of cranberry with something, because if I drink alcohol right now, I'll be like...
Yeah. And I am over here with some green tea. So, happy hour a little different than a lot of happy hours. I still got some work to do after this as well.
Me too. I've actually been recording content all day. I feel like all I've been doing all day is talking.
Yeah. Well, when I first came across your videos, I was just excited that somebody else is talking about this specific subject when it comes to acquiring internet businesses. And there's a lot of conversations that go on podcasts. I feel like, obviously there's a ton of blogs, but there are very few channels on YouTube that talk about this stuff. So have been following you from the beginning, and this was way, way overdue for us to connect. So thanks for having me.
I am excited to hear that you say that. And I think that especially that you started live streaming now, I feel like that's a new thing that not a lot, but more channels are doing, is making themselves more accessible to people out there in the world, and using live streaming as an option, especially in this current climate and this state of maybe not being able to be as mobile as we normally would like, and being able to do meetups and to do conferences and to, doing seminars, where networking is such a critical component of our growth. And so I love that you're doing that. And a lot of people are intimidated by it. I mean, I am, but
really?
It's like video is my Achilles heel. Totally.
You're a total natural. But yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the things that we did a lot of was DEALMAKERS weekends back in the day. And, when I look back, a lot of my partners in deals came from that. So obviously, we do the virtual stuff, but when you compare even spending a year with a coaching client versus 3 days in person, hanging out in the house in Vegas, there's just a lot more of a trust factor there. And, you just end up doing things and having a longer lasting relationship. Sometimes even after a year of virtual connections, it just isn't quite the same. So I enjoy connecting, and, live is as close as we can get right now. It'll be a while before I'm able to even travel back to the US. It's looking like.
Or if you would even want to at this point.
Yeah, that's the truth. I can't get back, but deep down inside, it's like, yeah, I think I'm in a good spot.
All right. Well, before we jump into questions, because I have some and I know that you have some, again, if you are in the chat and you are here, please identify yourselves. Let us know who you are. And not only that, but where you are from. And if you have questions for Ace, he's here and he's live, and we are going to take questions. I'm happy to answer questions myself if you want to lean upon my expertise.
I've got some questions for you.
Okay, well, then as people catch up, there's Adrian from Hasta La Vista Boss. Adrian is a good friend of mine, and his brand is Hasta La Vista Boss. He wants to fire his boss, and I just love his brand, what he's doing.
I love that. Hasta La Vista Boss.
Yep. And there's Dante. What is going on? Thanks for jumping on. So people are seeing this. Again, if you're hopping on, smash the like button, leave some comments, leave some chat, and YouTube will know, hey, there is also Chris from Niche Safari.
Uh-oh.
Welcome. I'm so glad that you saw the notification, I assume, and came over here to hop on. We've basically been chit-chatting, and now Ace and I are going to ask each other some questions. And since you brought some, I'm going to ask you to fire away at me. And I have no idea what you're going to ask about. And let's see if I sink or swim. Let's do it.
No, yeah. Well, it's more of an opinion thing. You know, I think obviously we're seeing a lot of unrest right now, just in every market, and so the buy and sell market isn't what it was last year, to say the least. So I am curious to get your prediction on two things. Number one, you know, an increase or a decrease, because I think there could be a big increase in the number of deals done. So increase or decrease for the rest of the year in volume. And then I'm curious where you see multiples heading.
I think there's going to be an increase in deals. And maybe not necessarily the deals that we had last year, but I think that there are going to be more transactions overall. And I think they're going to be motivated with a different purpose. So I don't think that we felt really the pain. I'm putting in my air quotes, like the pain, right? We've got a lot of governments around the world that have been doing what they can to prop up their economies. And then we don't necessarily have an end in sight. I mean, that we may have a vaccine or we may not. People may or may not use it. But I think the economies are far from recovering. And I think the stimulus plans and the support plans are going to be terminating. And I think the pain is coming, like you're seeing it in LA right now. I saw a video on YouTube last night. It was somebody saying that the 6-month relief had ended. And at the end of the month, people are just leaving because they can't afford to get into these apartments. So Hollywood is like a ghost town because there's nobody there to rent. And there are people who are like actually offering rent relief for you to move in. So the first month free, come in and sign a lease. And I think we're just at the beginning of that pain. And I think that's going to encourage transactions. I think we're going to see a lot more transactions because of that, but not motivated in the vein of, I want to make money. It's like, I got to get out of this deal. I got to get out of this thing that should have been an asset and now is a liability. So across the board, you know, real estate, I mean, people are all talking about real estate, but even online, I think people are going to have other needs outside of their lives that say, okay, now is the time to sell this, even though maybe I would have held on to it. And what that's going to do to multiples, I think it's going to drive the multiple down because the supply is going to be up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do think we're going to see a big increase in supply as well. That I think it's going to be interesting on a kind of motivation level. I think so far, just looking at a lot of the prices, there hasn't been this big motivation to bring prices down. But yeah, what do you think about on the second part of that, the multiples?
Really quick, I see Matt Sale just jumped on, and so I was hoping that you could.
Matt?
Yep, I was hoping that you could handle this. Sushi threw in that Ace is the deal maker, but I guess I could give you an opportunity to give your quick, like 1-minute elevator speech.
So my background is I bought an internet business in 1999. It was a stock market simulator. That was the first time I realized that you could buy internet businesses that were generating income, or buy any business that could generate income. After the 2001 .com bubble, I started buying offline businesses, and then in around 2009 or so, started doing more internet deals, and now my portfolio is 100% online.
Awesome. So Matt, if you want to know more, please jump in and just ask your questions. Just a quick, Adrian says he thinks it's a great time to take calculated risks and invest in property if you have the money or can get your hands on some. And that may even be the case going forward into Q4 and even Q1 of next year as the stimulus stuff falls off. But you were asking me about what I think about the multiples.
Yeah.
I think those are going to go down as far as internet businesses anyway, and maybe not across the board on all of them, but since I focus mainly on content sites that are monetized with affiliate stuff and ad revenue, I think the multiples are going to go down. partially because I think supply is going to be up. I think that there will be fewer people up there cashed up who are ready to just take their cash and put into something that may be more of a risk, especially with what's going on with Google. Like on the 10th, what is it, 3 or 4 days ago, Google somebody flipped the wrong switch and like one day destroyed a whole bunch of sites. That's not a business that you want to throw $1 million at. Where Google be like, my bad.
So somebody spilled coffee on the machine, on the servers.
Basically, that is what happened, and they have egg on their face. And it seemed like content sites for a while were a really stable place to put your money because you weren't, having issues with inventory and with China and trying to get your product, and you weren't dependent upon Amazon and FB and all these things, and you could walk away from it, right? You could just put your site down and be like, I'm going to go to Jamaica for a month, and my site will continue to earn money. But you almost have to be on hand now to watch this stuff and to run it more like a regular business than a passive income investment.
Yeah, and if you're not optimizing consistently on the SEO side and on the income side, it can you can get into trouble. And now, in addition to things like Google, you have Amazon that can tweak the commissions at any point. So yeah, it's a lot more volatile, especially in these last couple of years. We had the updates and the penguins and all that stuff, but it seems like there's a lot more that can impact those deals now. Were any of your sites impacted by what happened on the 10th?
Yes, but not the way that you would expect. I had one site that the traffic doubled or tripled. Basically, you just see like, normal traffic, and then you see this like straight up. Like it's so straight up that the Google Analytics could barely take into account the fact that it was just like a straight line up. And then the next day after they fixed it, it went like just right back to where it was before. I want to say hey to Carl. Carl Broadbent is a good friend of mine. His channel just crossed 1,000 subscribers, and he actually is looking at this time right now in the pandemic as a time to invest and sort of go, I don't want to say all in, but close to all in on starting a new site and starting with investing a ton of money, meaning a reasonable amount of money into content. So this is the time to start something rather than to sit back and hoard my money, which goes into my question, which is, how do you feel about now being the time to take maybe cash that you've hoarded and invest it in something?
Yeah, I do think, in the stock market and all that, I'm treading lightly. It's been a big run up. But I think in these kinds of assets, it just so happens that I do think that the rock bottom deals, when it comes to kind of this micro private equity space, are the offline businesses, because there are a lot of businesses that are just sitting there. And so each one of those, it's more than just, can this business make money in the previous way that it was making money? It's now that the person's not making any money off of the business. There are a lot of those businesses that have databases of customers. They have branding. They have even just space. We did a deal in New Jersey where a guy basically took a restaurant that had a big kitchen, split up the space, and allowed other people who wanted to do delivery to use that kitchen and rent that out. And so there are just a ton of opportunities, but those joint venture kind of things exist online. So I think that there are a ton of opportunities to do things that don't even involve much money, because there's just all of these assets that are out there and nobody's using them. And so I have more of the perspective of, look for deals that have assets that are being underutilized, and figuring out how to maximize those assets, which is what we're doing when we do deals. So I like what Carl, as far as just starting, I think that's it's a great time, because we have a lot more time than ever before. But I think in addition to paying for content and all that. I think a lot of times there's opportunities to do joint ventures with other businesses and kind of leverage what they've already built.
I'm going to jump to a question here from Adrian. He says, what should I do or where should I look if I want to buy my first offline business? So we talk a lot about here on this channel about buying online businesses and all the things, but making the jump to offline stuff. And Adrian, of course, is the guy who asks this because Adrian is like a super hustler, basically.
Yeah.
Where would you recommend that a guy like that go?
Number one would be Biz by Sale. So same place we look at a lot of internet businesses, but a lot of brokers don't list there. And so you want to search for brokers that are in your market and connect with them. The other thing is, if you know what type of business you want to buy, it can be easier just to reach out to that type of business in your market. And the best place to do that is LinkedIn. It's just really, really killer. Especially introducing yourself as somebody who's interested in investing or buying, and just to open up the conversation and build a relationship, because a lot of times investing in the offline businesses doesn't mean that you're investing cash. It could be that they have no idea how to leverage the internet for their business. And, just there's never been a time where it's just completely necessary for every business to leverage the internet in some way. And so you can come in and invest your time in exchange for equity or in exchange for a royalty in the business. And, I like to structure those deals where I'm still acting like it is a specific amount of money. It's like, hey, this is what I would charge as my hourly rate. And, I'm going to put in $50,000 worth of my time into this business over the course of a year. So the valuation of your business is $500,000. So that means I should get 10% or whatever, however that works out. But it's a big opportunity for those kinds of deals. But I would do Biz by Sale, look for local, brokers. And a lot of times those brokers are going to have deals that are pocket listings. It happens more with offline businesses that they're pocket listings than internet businesses, because offline businesses are more worried about the word getting out that they're going to sell. And, a lot of times they're in a community, everybody knows each other, and it does, like, word will spread. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and anytime something did come up for sale, like I would hear about businesses that were for sale from somebody else, which was a great way to find deals. And so word spreads. They get concerned about clients not wanting to continue working with them or getting worried about re-upping a contract, whatever the case may be for that business. And so they want the listings to be secret. So you want, you won't find those on Biz by Sales or listings or anything. So you want to build a relationship with that broker. And then the last one is LinkedIn.
Quick question. Sushi asks, what do you mean by pocket listings?
So pocket listings are a broker goes in and talks to a business owner. And, for offline businesses, it's going to be in person. They're talking to the seller, potential seller, and they're like, tell me about the business. Would you be interested in selling? And the person is basically like, I don't want to sign any documents. But if you bring me a buyer that's willing to pay this amount, then I'd be interested in selling. But I'm not going to sign anything unless you have a buyer that is interested in coming in. And this is a really kind of cool thing. And this is when I was doing a lot of offline deals, what I would be for those brokers is that interested client for any possible deal. And that's what essentially you want to be, because that seller's like, hey, I'm not going to waste my time, sign a contract. I'm not and make this commitment to you, and you haven't shown me anything as far as if I'm really going to be able to sell it. Number two is I don't want to take the risk, like I mentioned, of word getting out. So if I just have this kind of hidden agreement or a handshake agreement that I'm willing to sell at that price, then that becomes a way for me to sell without making that commitment. Then I come in, or they bring me in as the potential buyer. And I can do a few things. Number one, I can just bring a buyer in. It's like, hey, like I'm going to introduce you to a buyer. So I need you to sell. I mean, I need you to sign the contract to sell, or it be listed. And number two, I can snap them into reality. So I'm not that tied to the business. And a lot of times, what that person comes up with when they talk to the broker is like their dream amount of money. But once somebody starts to talk or think about selling, they're interested in selling. And so, exactly, like it's for some reason, I don't like the under the table, but yeah, it's something that's not being publicized. So
yeah, well, what you're emphasizing here, though, is the importance of relationships, right? Because like having access to those types of deals is not going to happen unless somebody has basically your phone number, your text message, your email, and knows you personally and knows already how it is that you work. And so the only way that you would ever have access to those is if you were a really strong personal communicator and like actively cultivating those relationships.
100%. 100%. And figuring out how to give value to those people that can send you deals.
Yeah. And so not just saying, send me your stuff, you know who I am, but actually making them want to work with you.
Exactly. And it's the same for banks. Like I have banks that will have deals that get into trouble. They'll send those. Over the counter is a good one. That's a good way to put it. I like that. It's like you have the stock market, you have the NASDAQ, and then you have the OTC deals.
All right. So we have a couple of questions in the comments, and I know I have some, and I know you have some. I've asked a couple. So do you want to go to the chat, or do you want to ask one of the questions on your list?
So I saw this other question pop up that Jay asked about specific recent deals. I think that's something that both of us could talk about. So like,
yeah, I mean, I don't have anything huge. I have like one I did in the last year.
That's good. That's still, for the average person, they haven't done a deal in the last year. So that's more recent than the majority of folks. So I can talk about a couple of recent deals. There are a few things. So one of the things that was interesting is, when I'm buying businesses, I went from just straight out buying them to being an investor in deals and minority kind of positions. And in some cases, providing some lending financing and then some royalty financing. And in the process of that, basically looked back and realized, okay, like this note business can be its own business. This lending business now has, it's like, I need to put that into an LLC and make that a real business. And then the royalty business ended up, had some assets, and we got interest from an investment bank to take that public. So that's been a lot of my last year's just the work that we've been doing. We did get approved by the SEC. We'll get our symbol from FINRA in January, and so then it'll be traded. So that's been a big deal for the last year. And then on the acquisition side, we closed a blog, a content deal that was complementary to. We had an art business that they're both in the art space. And so a lot of basically what I try to do is find businesses that complement businesses that are already in the portfolio. So we had a business in the art space. I need to come to you behind the scenes, Emil, and get some tips and tricks at some point so we can grow these things. But one is on the content side and has back end of a training and that kind of thing. The other is just a straight blog, and all the revenue comes from ads. But that has been a cool deal. We saw some major growth in art, in the interest of art, because of quarantine. So
that's so interesting. That is just mind blowing to me. Art of all things.
I know, and I think that's kind of a side note to all this is, we've seen, we have another business that's in the toilet space. When it did killer because people were completely obsessed with
toilet paper.
Not the toilet paper. What's the
duvet?
Duvet, yeah. Duvets were like going crazy. So we're getting
Bidet, that's
massive
what it is, not duvet, but
bidet. Not,
bidet.
yeah, bidet. That's what it is. Which is terrible because I made a lot of money off of those things. But so there are all these random things that did well. The art business was doing well. So the most recent deal, we basically leveraged that business and took over another business in the art space, both
You know
content
what
deal.
that really emphasizes, though, to me is how important it can be to look outside of what we have on as our blinders and what we think of as interesting, because it would have never occurred to me, because I'm not that into art, right? It's not one of my hobbies. It's not one of the things I invest in. And so it never even occurred to me to consider businesses in the art space. I would have assumed the opposite. I would have
Yeah.
assumed that people were all freaked out, and because you hear a lot of people who are selling off things right now. People in my community here are trying to unload their rental properties, and they're, pushing people out of their homes because they just want to get cash, and cash isn't always necessarily the best thing to do either, right? But it's just wouldn't have thought of people taking cash and investing it in art of all things. I would assume they'd be investing in silver and freeze dried food.
And so to be clear, in both of these cases, it's teaching people how to do art.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody's stuck in their home and looking for projects for
See,
their
that
kids.
makes more sense.
And yeah. So both of those are basically teaching people how to do art. And then we sell a lot of art. Obviously, we sell classes on art, how to do art. And then we also sell all the products that they need. And the gun range deal. Yeah, so that's a client. I can't take credit for that one. So
Matt says really quick, he says he'd like some advice about where to go as a buyer. Flippa nobody's a big fan of Flippa right now. And I know what Matt is looking for, and Empire Flippers is out of his range. And we've just been doing like some talking in our live streams. Say, hey, is anybody looking to sell for, online businesses or properties that are under the $10,000 range? But where can people go because that range is where all the scammers are. Like it's really, really difficult to get an opportunity that's under 10 grand. Do you have any secret sauce? Places like Matt could go to find something?
I think the groups are a good place, the Facebook groups. So Patey's is a good place.
I think following him in general is a good place.
Following him in general is big. Chris's Rhodium is a good place. If they go to market, they move too fast. But I have seen really decent deals come available. And no matter what, you got to do a ton of due diligence. But the one thing that I do like about those groups is if you have somebody that's been in the group, now there are going to be the people that just join and they promote something and dip out. But if you see that somebody's been around for a long time, they're integrated into that community, they're a lot less likely to be kind of scammers. And it doesn't mean that the deal is going to be a good deal, because they may think it's a good deal and it's just a bad deal. But I think that the toughest person to deal with is the person that's trying to hide something or trying to pull the wool over your eyes to get a deal done and they know, hey, this is a scam. I'm trying to scam this person. So, I personally would stay away from Flippa, especially in that range. The best Flippa deals are the larger deals. There are some good deals there, but they're just the larger ones. And in that range, I feel like it's the squeeze isn't worth the juice. There's so much work when you get below 10,000 to weed through all of the crap. And then when you find something, to have to bid against everybody else for the one good deal in that range, you'd be better off building relationships. And so the other thing that I would do is go back in the history in those groups and look for the people that sold deals in that range before, because most of the time somebody who's selling that, definitely didn't retire off of selling something that size, and they have the expertise. So they're usually going to go out and do it again. And so if you can build that relationship, again, a lot of it comes down to relationships. But if you can go in and build that relationship and be the first person they come to, that's a big win.
I think that's huge. And that was going to be my point, was I think that range is going to be a lot more peer-to-peer deals between people who trust each other. And that relationship has to be formed. So folks like Matt who do really want to purchase sites. And when we brought this up in the live stream on Wednesday, there were 4 or 5 people who were like, yeah, me too. I'm in that range. I would love to buy something between $1,000, $2,000. It doesn't even have to be monetized. I just want a content site that I can build on. And I just think it's going to be people connecting and then getting to know each other and trust each other in that way.
Who was there was that other business that I feel like Richard was a partner in, and they were doing that.
You're talking about the Flipping Websites Facebook group, and then they started Investors Club.
Yeah. And did they sell like pre-revenue deals as well?
I don't know. I'm not sure if they did or did not, but I know that
Spencer Hawes. Spencer Hawes is doing.
You're talking about Motion Invest.
Motion Invest.
Yeah, that's John Gillum and Spencer Hawes, and there's another gal. And we've talked. I actually have gotten to talk to John a couple of times here on this channel about his company, and so they launched last fall. So I think they're at about 9 or 10 months in. And I think most of their stuff moves immediately.
Quick.
Like immediately.
But, yeah, if you're interested in kind of pre-revenue, that's it's a good place to I haven't looked at it in a while. I'm actually poking around on the site right now. But that could be a neat way to go. And I've bought a couple of businesses from Spencer, just as a side note, and he's a good builder.
Yeah. Really quick note, Carl says that Matt Sale, please reach out to him. Apparently Carl might have something that you might want to look at. So, and Sushi says alpha
the last
investor.
tip is just come to Amelia's channel and get on every live.
You just never know who's there, because I feel like I have a garage full of sites, and eventually I want to just get rid of them because I'm tired of paying for hosting and domains.
I know. So what are you doing right now? This is one of my other questions for you. What are you doing right now to grow? What's kind of any secret sauce, any cool things that you're seeing that works well for growing the content sites?
For me, my focus is maybe more diversified than the folks that follow this channel just for the website sauce. Because I'm really concerned, especially with organic search traffic, about just throwing everything in on organic search, because I don't feel like it's reliable and I feel like it could change at any point. So I've been focusing primarily on building multiple digital real estate products, properties, streams. So I do the website stuff, and then I'm here on YouTube for the purpose of creating an audience, but also one that I can monetize ethically, of course. And, everybody who's over here in the chat, they know that I don't try to sell them, but there's ad revenue to be earned from creating high quality videos that get lots of views. And then I have recently started a newsletter like Richard Patey. I talked to Richard and he convinced me to start building an audience over there and collecting emails. And then I also have started creating. They're not great, but I'm getting better. I've been creating courses on Skillshare with the goal of eventually, hopefully, knowing enough and being good enough to actually create a digital property that I could sell. And then I also have some offline stuff that I do so in real estate. And so it's just sort of spreading things out and trying to grow them all. And my secret sauce is trying it all.
I love it.
It's like trying really hard, experimenting, and if you want like how to make a really great website and rank it, I would send you straight to Matt Diggity. I said, you go to Matt Diggity and he will tell you all about how to do those things. For me is testing.
That guy.
Testing. So somebody says, here's a strategy, and then my sauce is, let's test it. Let's try it. So I will build or buy a site specifically on somebody's strategy. Somebody says, here's ABC, exactly what I do. So if I bought their course, because I do that occasionally, I buy a course or have access to it. And then I say, okay, let's test this. And then I learn on the way. And then maybe I don't have the same asset that they have, but I have all of that knowledge. And I, in general, end up with something that is earning some money. And so I just think of it like, you keep throwing drops in the bucket and eventually you'll have a full bucket if you just stay with it. And this isn't a get rich quick scheme to me. So I
Yeah.
think, okay, as long as I keep working and I keep learning. And so if I have any secret sauce, it is just focusing on the learning aspect of it and not getting too excited to rush to make the money part, even though that's
Mm,
something we all need. And that's a mistake I think I made early, was just if it didn't make me money right away, then you'd stop. Then you
yeah.
just go try something else and try to make money right away, and then you stop, and then all of a sudden you've tried 100 things and not made any money, and you don't have anything. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what
It's
I'm
tough,
doing. It is hard in the beginning.
to convince people at the beginning that it's just like, hey, like patience is it's a huge value. Like it is a difference maker in how well you do, because if you can go super deep and just have that knowledge, no matter what happens with the economy, because businesses, no matter, we saw this, but with COVID, no matter how great you do due diligence, there were people that closed on businesses and bought businesses in fourth quarter of 2019 that their due diligence was as perfect as you could ever dream. And March comes and that business is worth zero.
Mhm.
And so, it is having the skill set, because you may work on things that, it just, but without things out of your control can completely pummel a business. But if you've learned some things from that, you're able to go out and do that again. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically been my focus. So I have the podcast I started this year, and recording a ton of content for that. And I'm actually just really enjoying it. So not only have I found another property to grow, another
Mhm.
personal asset of mine, but it's personally fulfilling, which is unexpected. I,
That's cool. Is it
it's
all? What's the subjects? What are you talking
Similar
about?
to this, and it's just
Okay.
as I come across people. So I started with just taking the interviews that I had done on this channel and then moving them over there because people were really excited to say, "Hey, could you just put it over there so I could hear it? I don't have an hour on YouTube. I can't sit in front of my thing, but I'll be in the car and I can listen to it." And then I've started to do interviews with people who are just really smart and who are either entrepreneurs or who are business owners. I had a really great chat with a guy. His name was Jerry. I'm going to butcher his name. Jerry Abiog. It's either Abiog or Abiog, but he's the CMO of this company called Standard Insights. And so he's one of these guys who left his corporate job several years ago and had a failed startup. And then he and his three partners are have created this product. It's, artificial intelligence is the buzzword now, right?
Yeah.
It's not a software, it's a service where they are helping small businesses do remarketing with artificial intelligence. So they're taking all of the customer data, the past history purchasing data. So companies that may have only collected like emails and your phone number and not created a database of what you bought. So they're looking at encouraging these businesses to create the database of the past history so that then they can use all of the tools that affiliate marketers use now to retarget them and remarket them. So small business owners
Love
who
it.
may have only thought of Facebook, right? Or but helping them do push notifications and email marketing, but segmented specifically to their buying history. So people who like cheese, like they're specializing right now with restaurants.
Hmm.
People who have previously ordered A, B, C, or D, we have this special. So let's figure out how to remarket to
Oh
those
my
customers.
goodness. Yeah. From a
Mhm,
restaurant perspective, like
mhm.
that's killer.
Yeah, they're calling it I order. And so the component that they're adding in though that goes well with the pandemic is that it is the automation, so people can get served the ad or whatever the content is and then add it and then just pick it up so that they don't have
Mm,
to actually have all the additional interactions of going and sitting. So they just want to make it as seamless as possible for somebody to get the thing like, oh, cheese,
done.
order,
Yeah.
drive, because you can, pay for it, all the things, and all you have to do is order it and then go get it based upon the artificial intelligence that suggested to them that they
Yeah.
might buy it. And but targeting not affiliate marketers, not sophisticated people, but somebody who wants to make the most of their asset, and then looking at maybe taking it to doctors who are doing telehealth, and these
Yeah.
health centers that have really struggled to manage the fact that a lot of people are afraid now to go to the doctor and don't realize that telehealth is an option, and just helping them actually market their services in maybe a more up-to-date way. Because if your customers are too afraid to come to you, and you were previously getting all of your business from word of mouth, or the fact that you were the only doctor in Johnstown, Alabama, then what? What do you do? And so I just think I had that chat with this guy and it was
Yeah.
it was really fascinating to be able
That's
to just.
probably the coolest thing about a podcast is being able to connect with amazing people.
Yeah, I feel like it raises my just maybe not intelligence, but I just feel better for talking to people, and I think more in those terms. So when I'm away from them, so my internal dialogue is maybe more intelligent.
Hmm.
It's like you surround yourself by the people who maybe are doing the things that you want to do, or thinking the things that you feel like you want to do. And then overall, I feel maybe more motivated in the day because I just got off the
Or
phone with
just doing
somebody who.
bigger things. I think
I
that's what
know.
it's so easy to get complacent
Mhm.
if you're not being challenged by people that are doing really big things.
Mhm.
And I have to sometimes just go out of my way to, okay, what's the next level and what's the next level and how can I pull people into my network that will challenge me so that, I'm not, yeah, it's good.
All right. Well, it's my turn then to ask a question.
Okay.
Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
No, I'm not. I wish that I were. I think entrepreneurs are really, really amazing. I am more of an investor and a deal maker. I literally just have not started a business, a true business from scratch. And I think in order to be an entrepreneur, you can even just be a business owner
Mhm.
and own a business and run a business. But I do think that an entrepreneur is somebody who is has that skill set and talent of building something from scratch.
Mhm.
And it's a different skill set that I bring, and I think it's like what you said as far as like really understanding my secret sauce. And
Mhm.
for me, my secret sauce is just a few things like seeing some opportunity in a particular deal, being able to raise capital to buy businesses, thinking about things from a deal structure or asset. One of the things we're really focused on right now is buying businesses that have assets that nobody is paying attention to. So we bought a business or invested in a business that had a lot of people that were buying a fitness related course to start as a personal trainer, and they're essentially borrowing the money to pay for part of it. But most people don't treat that like a true note.
Mhm.
And so, we have this note business. And so we're putting together a situation where now those people are going to sign a real note that becomes an actual asset that's tradable, sellable. You can borrow against that asset. And that's just like value created out of thin air.
Mhm.
Just a lot of different things. And we're doing a thing right now where, I've got about 38 businesses that are in my portfolio, and then we have the clients that buy businesses and all that, and we have a accountant that was working on a lot of those businesses, and I just realized like, hey, we need to start an accounting firm. And so we start an accounting firm. Now this becomes an official thing. It's a real accounting firm. It goes and it services our client, but now we can go and promote it to other people that have internet businesses and e-commerce businesses. And so that's how my brain works as far as starting something where it's almost on the back end. It's like, oh, there's value right here. And we can do something to kind of take that value and make it something that's recognized in the marketplace.
Matt's wanting to know what it is that I am drinking, because it's technically a happy hour. And what Matt
Yeah.
does, Matt always shows up to my live stream drinking whiskey. And it's so funny because he's thinking, maybe, am I having a drink? And I'm like, no, today it is cranberry juice and ice because it's 2:45 here and I have so much work to do still.
Well, Matt, I'm a big fan of whiskey, man. So I'll probably have a glass later on.
All right. Well, your turn or my turn. I don't think we have anything pending in the chat right now. I think that we are good on the chat. So do you have a question or should I hit you?
Yeah. So, when you're talking about doing things on Skillshare, I was looking at Teachable and, we're going to do like a little course and that kind of thing. Are you concerned if you build an asset on Skillshare as opposed to like building your own membership site? Is it like, because obviously you're thinking assets, like building assets. How did you make that decision? And do you think you're going to continue with that long term to build out those courses?
The answer is yes. I do see myself potentially in the future doing a standalone course. One of the things that I like about Skillshare is that it allows me to be really, really lazy. So I have all of these other things to do in Skillshare because they do it Netflix style rather than selling one course at a time like Udemy. People pay one fee to get on the platform and then they go and consume what they want. And so Skillshare has a really strong motivation to keep people on the platform. So they are very aggressive about trying to use their technology to serve courses to people so that they will click on them and consume them. And so like on Google, when you type in, how to cut a cucumber, and then Google will only serve you, for the most part, searches that are relevant to that because that's what you search for. But Skillshare, I think, is super crafty in that when you search how to cut a cucumber, they will serve you things that are optimized for cutting cucumbers, but they will also serve something like drawing with LED lights. And it'll be in the top 10 or 20. You're scrolling down. It's like clearly not relevant. Hey, Carl, see you later. But it's clickbait for you because you're like, draw with LED lights? And so then you've clicked it. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I watched that thing. And then that creator makes money from that. And then they go back like, yeah, it was cucumbers. And then you're scrolling. You're like, I have always wondered how to make pinwheels out of toll tires. And then, so you're in there and they're literally just trying very, very hard to market courses for folks that either don't have that marketing skill, ability, or audience, or two, the desire. And I don't have time right now to go and like full on market courses. Because with Teachable, you have a Teachable site, you put your course there, and then it's on you, right? You take the lion's share of the earnings, but then it's the time. And so for me, I think of that as another stream that's separate from using Skillshare as a platform, because there they pay by the minute. So I have those courses there and I can never take them down. They're there. And so even the bad ones are there, right? I made them and I'm embarrassed by
that's like a part of their rules is that you can't delete it later.
I can't delete it.
Wow, that's interesting.
At least, like I've tried because I have a couple up there that are really terrible and I'm embarrassed by them. I can't get rid of them. But for me,
the truth is we can't get rid of anything on the internet at the end of the day.
Oh my God. I'm getting all red because I'm embarrassed because some of them are really bad.
But then, I didn't realize that they pay. And so they basically take your minutes, the number of minutes that everybody's watched you, and then you get like a portion of the total Skillshare pie.
Yes. And so that amount per minute can change in a given month. So it could be 4 cents a minute or it could be 8 cents a minute. And if you compare that to like KDP, what is it? The KENP or KNEP, the amount that Kindle Unlimited pays you per page is so dramatically different. So if you were to invest 30 hours to create a 20,000 page ebook and then post it, and then they will pay you 0.004 cents per page read versus getting paid 4 cents for a minute consumed. I mean, you're way better off going to some place like Skillshare with that same information and create multiple courses around that 20,000 words worth of your knowledge and information to be consumed on a per minute basis that you don't have to market. Plus, there's not a lot of competition there. So I send beginners there all the time. It's like, this is a great place to make your first dollar.
Well, dang, and I just finished my private equity book. I should have just went to Skillshare.
Yeah, but you have an audience already.
Writing books is a pain.
I have done that too, and it is a lot of work.
It's a
It
lot
is a
of
lot of
work.
work. It's a lot of work.
Glad
Making
that it's
videos is so
over.
much easier.
Yeah, yeah, way easier.
Not only
So
that, but most people are afraid to go on camera. So then your competition is legitimately less stiff because there are just fewer people doing it.
it's the weirdest thing though, because it's now people more like I feel like almost everybody's going on camera in some way. You know,
Mm.
whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Facebook. But the interesting thing to me is the psychological block of I'll do a Instagram video, but like no, I could never do a video. I could never do a YouTube video. Like you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like that mentality is I don't really understand it.
I felt it in the beginning. I felt like I was in the wrong place, and I feel like I'm old, and you can't see my gray hair up here because everybody here is young and all the rest. But I thought like finding that there's a lot of people here who lurk. Like there's a lot of lurkers who are my age and my level of experience. And I see Sushi asking where she can get your book. So is this a book you said you just finished, but it's not been released yet?
That hasn't been released. It will come out in late September, so about a month and a half. Feel free to go to acechapman.com, and we're going to be sending out a couple of the chapters. That book is about either starting your own kind of small micro fund, which is something that we're helping a lot of people do that never thought that they could start a fund. And then I do have an older book, the Ace Formula, that is available now on Amazon, and it's basically free if you're Amazon Unlimited. So check that one out. And yes, really soon we'll have the private equity book out.
So when you talk about people creating their own microequity fund, we're talking about people who would not qualify as accredited investors, right? So people who would have because what I see a lot now is people getting the idea of like, let's go in a partnership, let's buy a website together, and then they pull their money without really thinking necessarily about how to own the property together and how to divide liabilities. And then what happens if the agreement goes sideways and one of them is located in Pakistan and the other person lives in Australia? And then how to it just as a former lawyer, right? I'm a former lawyer, so looking at this and I just want to like, oh my God, like what happens when somebody has a problem? Because there's going to be a problem. I mean, there's always a problem.
Always. It's one of the
So,
reasons. Or what, did you have a question at the end of that? What were you about to
oh
say?
no, I was going to say, like, what would be sort of the number one thing to tell people to do aside from don't do it?
Yeah, so it's one of the reasons that I think that we like funds a lot is that all of that kind of work has been done already previously.
Mhm.
So the case law and having those templates that are really built out, and so you have the general partnership, and there's just years and years of history put into those documents. And then you have the limited partnership where there's just years. And so it just makes it very, very easy. Everybody knows where they are, how they fit in. But the bigger thing I really regretted when I finally started doing more funds was that I had this long history of generating returns, but I really didn't get credit for it.
Hmm.
And so, the cool thing is when you buy these businesses, our expectation for a decent deal is so outrageous compared to what the average fund makes. You know what I mean? Like the average fund's like they're excited to get 8%. If we buy a business and we get like 8%, we're like, oh my, this was a
The failure.
tragedy. Yeah,
Yes.
a major failure. So for us to, even if we don't do as well as we want to, the truth is on a fund level, those returns look amazing. And so you build up this track record, and we just realized like we've got a lot of clients that have done all these amazing things in the past, and then they get to the next deal and they're trying to raise capital or they want to do something bigger. And the natural way to do that is to start with a really small fund and have this track record, and it becomes easy to access all the capital you need.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking at the time. It is 2:56, and so
Yes.
we were talking about happy hour. I'm not going to try to push you beyond that hour because I just feel good to and excited to have had you here. But if folks have
Yeah.
any other quick questions or just want to say, hey, what's
Sure.
up? And thanks to Ace for coming. It's just been really cool to have a chance to talk to you. And I honestly got through like none of my questions.
We'll have to do it again, and then we'll do like next time we'll do it on my channel, and we can kind of go back and forth. Maybe each month have somebody come on
Yeah,
the
no,
either.
that would be a lot of fun to do this consistently and just have a segment that is Deal Makers Happy Hour, and then yeah, you tell your people to call me because I don't have people.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so very much.
Later. Thanks, guys.